Long before the ink dried on the page, the figure had begun its quiet emergence. It started as an accidental blot, just a splash of black on a crisp white sheet. But soon, lines and shapes swirled to form a curious silhouette. "How strange," the artist whispered, turning the page every which way. This figure grew out of an ink blot. "See, I'll call him Rorschach." A small circle of onlookers gathered around the table where the drawing lay. One was a philosopher, leaning in with a faint grin. "I see confusion in the splotches, like a labyrinth," she said. Another saw fireworks or the promise of strange adventures. And so, from this single smudge of ink, they began to glean a dozen different tales. Enter Rorschach, the inky apparition. He slouched on the page as though daydreaming, head tilted, hair a messy swirl. If Rorschach could talk, perhaps he'd muse about how each viewer sees a piece of themselves in him. Which brought to mind the words of Einstein. "Everything is energy, and that's all there is to it," he once said. Perhaps even an ink blot might hold energy enough to spark big ideas. The philosopher next quoted Buddha, "Your mind is everything. What you think, you become." Leaning over the page, she suggested that if we believe in possibility, even a random ink blot can become a thoughtful figure named Rorschach, or anything else we choose. The child's eyes gleamed in delight, already imagining future realms where Rorschach might roam. One onlooker, referencing Socrates, said, "The unexamined blot is not worth leaving on a page." They all laughed, but took it to heart. Indeed, how often do we dismiss small accidents, like a spilled drop of ink, without noticing the potential story they carry? Plato joined the conversation in spirit, recalling his allegory of the cave. "Is our ink blot but a shadow of a true form?" he might ask. The entire group paused. The child piped up. "Maybe it's real because we see it, or maybe it's just a blot if no one's around." "Time," said a wry, older voice, channeling Seneca, "is what we let slip away by ignoring little wonders. The wise find meaning in the smallest details." At that, the child tried to trace the negative spaces around Rorschach's silhouette, discovering new shapes: a crow's beak, a spiral, a half-hidden fish. "We see differently if we stand at a new angle," the philosopher reminded them. "Change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change." Gathered there, the group realized that in the simplest act, contemplating an ink blot figure, they were gleaning lessons about creativity, perception, and the personal narratives we impose on life's random moments. They parted ways, each carrying an unspoken resolution to see more carefully. For some, that meant painting or writing a poem the next time coffee dripped on their notebook. For others, it meant slowing down to watch how unexpected shapes might reveal new possibilities. As the group walked away from the table, the child turned back for a last look at Rorschach. Indeed, the figure seemed alive, if only in their collective imaginations. In that ephemeral hush, the spirit of the ink blot reminded them of a truth. So much of life's meaning lies in how we perceive the scribble's fate scattered across our pages, and the stories we dare to write around them.